Hello guys, and welcome back. And if you've actually stumbled upon this channel, thanks for clicking on it and having a view. Now, it is really horrible weather. It's rainy, it's windy, it's thoroughly unpleasant. We had gales pass through yesterday with even more rain. Everything is soaking, the ground, the vegetation, the trees. You've only got to touch something and you're going to get soaked. So I'm going to show you how I get a fire lit if I'm short on time, i.e. I'm going out for a wild camp and I don't have a lot of time to do preparation and get into the location before basically I've got to get into the nighttime routine. So basically I'll show you what I take with me. All the downed wood that's basically, windfall is actually soaking wet, and where a lot of it would be bone dry, unfortunately, because we've had so much rain and it's been so damp, it's all pretty much, as you can see, this piece here, it's soaking wet, and you'd have a job to get that going with a fire. Even the little twigs and things that usually stay, dry enough to get going, you snap them and they're still wet with moisture inside. Now, just looking around, there are usable pieces I can use, particularly if I can actually get a fire started. And that's probably going to be my biggest issue anyway. If I'm short on time, I've got an hour before light goes, so I've got to set camp up and do everything. My issue is actually selecting and getting the firewood and everything going, so I'm not scrabbling around in the dark. And some pieces like this here, you might see here, that's actually free fall, but it's off the ground. If I snap it, the core of it is dry, even though I can feel the outside is kind of still damp. So if I can get enough of a fire going to actually reach that core bit of wood, I should be able to get a big enough fire going to be able to take stuff of this sort of gauge and get a fire going for myself. Right, I've selected the area I'm going to use, and I've just kicked the leaves and got a little bit of a working area to start my particular hobo stove, which I'm going to use, because that's predominantly the method I will have a fire out in the open or when I'm out wild camping. Very, very rare do I do a fire straight to the ground, but I'm just showing you what I do to get a fire going when I'm out and about wild camping. So I'll do what's relevant to me, and you can see what I have to do here. So anyway, I've cleared the area. I'll let you have a quick little look. So I'm going to be using this, so it's pretty clear anyway, and as you can see, it's wet mud, but I'm just making sure there are no combustibles that will get hot and go up as well. But this ground here, there's no way that any heat transfer to it would make a fire. This ground here is turning almost to sludge. Right, you can see I've got my hobo stove, and I've actually got a ground plate there. It does actually have ventilation which goes underneath, so very little heat transfer can go to the ground. You've got circulating air underneath it. Now, you can see basically I've got a boiling vessel, I've got a cup, and I've got the means to actually have a cup of coffee here. But what I'm going to do here now is I'm actually going to get set up, and I'll quickly show you what I've got here. I've got a piece of inner tube from a child's push bike. I've got kids, I've got tons of this due to the amount of punctures and new tubes I've had to get. Excellent fire starter. I have some cordage here. This cordage here is what I use on my hiking sticks, but it will burn. It's a slow burn and not very fast, but it will stay burning. And it gives off, the only disadvantage is an acrid smell. So as long as you're downwind to it, this will actually get a fire going. If you fluff it up like that to get it going, to start it, it will burn. Obviously, hand gel contains alcohol. says on the tin or the label. So obviously, you know, this is a good fire starter in its own right. Just be prepared or be aware that you do not want to have this on your hands while you're dealing with a fire. Obviously, common sense and all fire safety precautions should be observed, but this will get a fire going in its own right. Now, I have an evergreen tree in my garden and I have no idea what species it is, but what it does do is drop loads of this stuff. This actually flashes up even if it's wet. It's a quick burn, admittedly, but even if it's wet it will go up, and it's reliable in that fact. This is the star of the show, and it is a toilet roll, and it's stuffed with loads of goodies. I have some sawdust, some chainsaw, you know, byproduct when I'm cutting logs, which gets ripped out in big shreds. I have some slivers of hazel from hazel sticks that I've been whittling down when I've been making my hiking staffs, and I have some lint from the washing machine, which everybody will possibly have, and or tumble dryer shall I say, and it's got some hand cream on it, which yet again has a symbol that states that it is a flammable. So it may be a medicating hand cream, but it does have properties which will ignite and stay burning. So this toilet roll is stuffed with loads of flammable goodies. So this is what you can expect to see me bring if I'm in a extremely hurried, thrown together wild camp. That is this stuff here from my garden, which flashes off like I described. Piece of hiking stick lanyard, which is of a man-made construction or material, and it will burn. Slow burn, but it does burn. Hand gel, as we've described. The inner tube will produce quite a long-lasting burn once you get it going. And obviously, star of the show, this toilet roll stuffed with loads of flammable goodies. And you can see I've treated myself to some new lighters. I'm pretty much out because I use it to light the indoors fire stove itself. But this is what I take if I'm literally back against the wall and I really want to get a fire going. No messing. So why don't I just bring fire lighters? Quite simply because I never buy them, or I have done in the past, but very, very rarely. I just use a mixture of stuff to get my wood burner going at home, and I see no reason why I should buy fire lighters when I can happily manufacture something from all the leftover byproducts around my workshop, my home and shed. So as I've already said, anything that's on the ground is going to take on residual dampness anyway, and you know, be in the early stages of rotting more than likely. But if you can find stuff like this, which is dead but still caught up and hanging, this is actually still dry. Even though it was wet, or it has been wet like I said, the passing air over it and continual airflow, you know, even when this has been damp, will definitely be a better bet to get a fire going. So as you can see, I've just pulled this off. It's been dead for quite some while. It's black on the end, so I'm going to chuck this down, and this will be a good base to get the fire going once I've got the initial flash off. And I'm scanning the ground here, and I'm looking for pieces which, you know, even if they are on the ground, I might be able to get pieces which, like this one here, it's on the ground there, but it's off enough there. So I've taken that. For me today, everything is just so wet, I've just got to get that initial flash off to the point I can get some heat and get that fire started. But you can see here, yet again, it's touching the ground there, but there's this portion that isn't. So I'm going to see if this will break. There. Yeah, that's good and dry in there if you have a look. You see that? That really is dry. Right, let's continue. This piece looks really good, but due to the black and the mould, you can see that that's holding a lot of moisture, that, so I won't be using any of that, you know, today. It needs at least a couple days of good solid dry weather with wind passage over it to get it to the point you'd want to use it in a fire again. Right, I'm walking over here, and that piece of blackthorn that we looked at here, which has obviously come down and is resting on the ground there, it's off the ground all the way along here, and there's a nice length of wood I can use here. So I'm going to take it there and I can process this down. Hear that snap? That was the sound of dry wood going, and that's a nice coffee colour there. Let's have a feel. That's actually feeling a bit damp there. I'm going to snap it further in. That's bone dry. I can feel that. That is bone dry. You heard that when it went with a snap like that. That definitely means that it's well and truly dry. But there's definitely going to be stuff off the ground here I can salvage. Well guys, look at those black clouds. There is more imminent rain on the way. So I'm going to get this started now and get myself a brew on before it all gets too late and everything gets drenched here. So I've got my firewood in 3 various stages, which I find kind of works. And I'll let you have a look, and I've got the different bundles down here. Right, you can see I've got a very small twig pile here, going up to the next thickness, and then going on to proper burn size wood. Right, you can see I've got 3 piles, and this is my smallest ones, which will take over once everything's flashed off inside the hobo stove. I've got a slightly bigger gauge of wood, which will allow the burn to continue, and then that will transfer its heat and flame onto the size of wood that I want to actually use, which will give me some time in that wood to burn. This sort of stuff it would take, and I could use that all the time, but I'd be constantly feeding. That's why I've got to go up through the grades to get to something which will give me sort of like 20 minutes burn time before I've got to reload the stove. So this is primarily my biggest source of ignition. Once I've got this gone or lighted and on its way, it will stay lit for a long time. So what I do is I'll just break it open and try not to spill too much. As you can see, I'll break it open. What I have in there, as you can see, I've got it stuffed with pieces of hazelwood, sawdust, and then I've got this lint, which is impregnated with hand cream, which is flammable. So this as a containerized fire starter is pretty good. This will light and stay lit for quite a while due to me having bigger pieces of wood in it also. But yeah, I'm going to get this in now and light it, and then get some of this stuff in, which will flash off. You can see I've waterproofed it by putting it in dog poo bags. They're cheap as chips, and because I've got a dog, I've got thousands of these kicking around. So I'm going to put this actually in the hobo stove and start thinking about getting it lit. Get it going. And you can see that container's going up and all that wood will start going now. That's an instant firelight for me, no messing around, and I now start thinking about getting the camp prepped when I'm out. I've got to start loading wood on now, and I'll do that. Get some smaller pieces. And I'll continue loading it up. Right, I've just actually stuffed it to pieces with twigs now. I'm going to wait for that to start burning, get some embers, then I'll move to the next, that's smoking. I'm going to move to the next stage of twigs. Right, I've got a break in the wet stuff or rain, but nevertheless, that's how I go about starting a fire. If I've just thrown a wild camp together, I know I'm going to have difficulty getting dry wood, and basically I've come out prepared, and that is how I guarantee I'm going to get a fire lit without there, you know, trying to strike matches and trying to light, you know, wood that is literally not going to light. It's not true bushcraft by any stretch of the imagination, because basically I've brought the stuff to the location. But in any case, you know, it still allows me to get a fire going when I'm out here, you know, and I can enjoy a fire without having to try too hard. So then, with time pressures that you know I'm under due to family commitments and the way my family you know operates and is with young kids, and actually having a wife that you know requires a little bit of assistance, you know, with doing all these things like family things, it does kind of mean if I'm going to go out, I either do it on the hoof or don't go out, as I've said before. And hence is why, you know, I come out prepared, and this now allows me to guarantee I'm, you know, hit the floor running, so to speak. There is an old saying, you know, poor planning and preparation equals piss poor performance, and I don't really want to get out and then be struggling with matches and lighters or any other performance trying to get a fire going. This allows me to get really wet wood going. You know, there's a multitude of videos online how to go about doing bushcraft lighting of fires and things. All I'm showing you is what I use just to get me going as soon as I get into location in difficult situations. Well, I haven't had a ferro rod in a long time. I've lost mine in many transit of moves and things like that, and I've just used matches and lighters. And I guess I've kind of just got used to the convenience. I will invest in one. They're not dear. It's just that it's possibly so far down the list of things I think about that I actually need. And by the time I get home from here, I would have probably forgotten that I want to get one anyway. But having said that, this little orchard that I'm in now, it's quite a favourite of mine, like I've said. But it's been confirmed by the local farmer that one of the tenant farmers that owns or basically sublets a field from a bigger landlord has been told that he's got 12 months on the land left, and then it's being taken back in hand. And yes, it's confirmed houses are going to be built along this stretch of road, and that will encompass this little orchard that I do use for a little bit of bushcrafting and wild camping. So it's sad, it's definitely confirmed, it is going. What I did as maintenance on these trees the other day, possibly a waste of time, but yeah, sad. So I'm going to probably make the most I can of this little patch before it goes. Most building work is done in like phases, phase 1, 2 or 3. So I should imagine this is where I'm standing now would probably be logically phase 2, because there's in front of me, here and behind me that they want to build. So yeah, sad times, but yeah, it's just how things are, and it's a shame the environment ends up under concrete. But yeah, I'm going to get my cup of coffee on the go. There you go, I'm just letting the last embers burn out, and then that'll be me done. Well, sorry about the wind noise. I've got my cup of coffee and it tastes good. I'm just about getting ready to pack up. I'm letting the last of the embers burn out, and then I'll be heading back home. Now, I thought I'd just show you how and why and what I use just to get a fire going when I'm out wild camping and I don't have a lot of time, and you know, getting to the location is a priority because I'm usually doing it just before dark. And what I've just shown you there allows me to get a fire on the go straight away, as I said. So this is Andy from Hidden Valley footpaths, and I hope to catch you guys out on the trail, and hopefully we'll get some better weather so I can get out and do a hike and not get either soaking wet or literally blown off the top of a tour. So all the best, stay safe, and I'll catch you guys out on the trail. Cheers, Andy.